Hey guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see. So we are started now. We are a little rusty at this. It's been a while since we've done one of these webinars, but welcome. I appreciate people being here. As the room is filling up, I see 37, 36 people connected so far. If you can hear us, go into the chat and let us know. Say hello. Let us know who all is here. Also, we are going to be using the chat heavily during this webinar, like we normally do, so that we can answer your questions as they come up or come back to them as we can. So I'm Jackson. This is Sarah here with me. I founded ResaleAI. Sarah is our product manager and was a customer before she was on the team. And today we are excited to show you ResaleAI Team, the newest version that we're making available to stores now. Let me share my screen because it's more important to see the software than to see us. For 1 second here. We used to do this all the time. It's much harder when you don't do it all the time. All right. So this is the original ResaleAI here. It's what we first started with in 2015, and we added on more features. Then many of you have been using the beta version for a couple of years now. Before the pandemic, we had started rolling this out, and people were using it, and we continued adding on to that as well. What we found over time, we rolled out features like CamRay, and sign to sell, and then now is Team. Now, what you'll notice mostly is that it's still the same. We're really talking about the same tools and the same general look between the applications. But when we first started adding it on, we didn't really know what we were building. And as we added more features and it got more complex, it got harder and harder for us to quickly adapt and make bug fixes and to support it and to keep it running correctly. And so over the past couple of years, we have done a serious rewrite of all the technology behind ResaleAI to make it much more stable, much smoother, much simpler to run and support. And that is now ready as Team. There's a lot of new features, and we're going to go over some of those as well. But the most thing you're going to notice is that it's a whole lot the same, and it's easier for us to support it. My hope is that the primary feature of Team will be the excellent customer support that we're able to provide you, and the speed with which we're able to adjust and fix bugs as they do come up. We're going to kind of go back and forth between Sarah and I. She's going to start off going over some of the key new functionality, and then I'll be back in a bit. Sarah.
Yep. Hey guys, let me share my screen now. And here we go. So some of y'all may have seen some of these new features that we're about to demonstrate at a conference if you came by our booth. So that was awesome, getting to see everybody in person again. We were demoing them at conference and decided to take a little extra time before rolling them out wider to really get more feedback from stores and make some more revisions before we release it out wider. And some of our awesome test stores are on the webinar right now. So thank you guys for sending us some really great feedback over the last month or two. So like Jackson mentioned, there are a handful of new features that we'll dive into some more specifically. So if you didn't go to conference or didn't stop our booth, then you guys can see some of that that's new. And one of the largest things I think is we've redone all of the settings. And that sounds kind of boring. Like usually people are not excited about settings, but it's been in kind of a weird state for a while where if you were using that current kind of beta version, we didn't have the settings ready for a long time. So you might have to switch in between to go to the older version to log in and update settings. And we didn't have a great way of getting to the settings from the point of sale in the older legacy version. There was no way for you to know that you were a manager and should have access to settings. So it was like kind of hard to get to. And now you're going to be able to have access to manage more of your account on your own from anywhere, whether you're logged in on your phone or your laptop or the point of sale itself. And what's cool is that you're going to be able to get to the settings from whatever page you're on. So if I'm on the backstock page and I realize, oh, we needed to add a new category for that, spring drop that we were doing, I can just go right up here and go to backstock settings. Might have to put in my PIN if I'm a manager to see that, but I can just get right to those settings, do what we need to do, and then go back to the app.
But
And
what if you need to add bins?
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. And the next thing that's really cool about backstock settings, now you can add your own bin numbers. You don't need to reach out to us anymore. You can add and manage bins a lot more easily, review and manage your categories and locations. And then we've also linked to a lot of the training materials from our help center directly in the settings too. So like if you were setting up backstock for the first time, you can get to the setup guide right here. And some of those are going to have some videos and things like that to kind of walk through how it all works. So you can see how I can just jump right to the settings. If I get to all of the settings, we're going to have some more options here. Another one a lot of people are going to like is now you can go add a bounce back campaign in at any time. You don't have to wait on our team. You don't have to fill out a form. You can just go click to add a new one and put in the details. So if you wake up one morning and decide you want to start a bounce back campaign, you can go and do that. Another one that I think is going to be really exciting are goals. So goal settings, there was a way for you to manage your goals in individual days before, but it just wasn't awesome. So, also I'm watching the chat. Wendy asked, how do you get the sticker files? So like the PDF template, if you're adding your bins, when we were on backstock settings a second ago, it will let you email them to yourself right then. So like it'll pop up and say like, where do you want to send them? And it'll email them to you. Yeah, awesome. I saw Jackson jumped in and answered that. So for goals, you'll have your basic goal settings like you had before, but then you can actually review and edit and get a lot more granular. So you're going to see a visual chart of your goals. It's going to look a lot like the monthly report, and you can drag and drop to edit any of those dates. So you're going to see 2 years worth of comps and then the current year's goals. And this way, it's just a little easier to realize if something's off. So if you notice one goal seems kind of out of whack, too high or too low, you can visually see it and drag and drop to change it. We've also had some people that have asked before to set a numeric goal, like a dollar amount. Instead of 10% up, I want my goal to be $100,000. You can now do that. This is also helpful if you're a brand new store. If you don't have a year of sales history, you can go in and put your monthly targets from your business plan in here, and it has this really cool job to, if you don't have your own sales history, it looks at all the other stores like you last year and kind of distributes out your monthly goal across the days. So that's going to make goal setting easier if you're brand new. And it shows you your comparison dates, things like that. You can get, I won't bore you here, but you can do a lot more where, let's say I decided to bump this goal up to $100,000. Then that makes my percentage goal a little higher, like 11 or 12%. But I'm like, no, I don't know that we can aim that high. I can adjust and I can adjust both. So like, let's say I decide that we're not going to do this event on this day. I'm going to lower this sales goal, and then that makes my percentage too low. I can bump up the percentage again, and it will keep the changes I've made to the individual days and just move the curve up and down. So I have a lot more control on setting goals that are going to work for my store. You can go ahead to future months too and plan in advance. So if I want to set specific goals for each month of the year, I can go ahead and do that. I can set a change to go into effect later. There's a lot more you can do here. So goals are going to be really exciting. And if you're a newer store and you're kind of not sure if you've gotten everything set up right, we have a new onboarding flow that's going to walk you through every step of the way. You can click Get Started and kind of progress through those settings in like a logical order of what you need to do to get set up. So if you have another store to add or you're kind of newer, that's going to be a good option for you. So there's a lot of new settings in there. We have another one that is a new feature, which is an integration with Homebase. That's something that a lot of people have asked for. Right now, you need an API key from their team. So if you're checking this out and you see what that looks like, just shoot an email to our team and we'll walk you through kind of how that works. And we're still finishing that one up, so it's going to look a little prettier soon. But you can connect Homebase and you'll be able to see your schedule on the daybook in ResaleAI, and it will let your team clock in and clock out. So that'll send the time punches to Homebase. That way your team can, this store uses When I Work, but if you use Homebase now, you'll be able to see who's coming in next, and they can clock in and clock out without leaving ResaleAI. And another thing that we were also adding is support for breaks, and that's going to be in both When I Work and Homebase. So there'll be a new option to take a break rather than clocking out, which just makes it a lot easier when you review your timesheets. And you're going to see a better status indicator. It'll be an orange color. So you'll know, like, rather than seeing that Danielle's no longer there with the blue icon, I'll know, oh, she's on break. So I have a better view of who's really in the store. So those are a lot of the settings that I'm excited about, and I think you guys are going to love. There are a couple of small things that I'll point out. On the team list page, we made that a little easier to view and easier to manage who's a manager to set someone as a manager so they can have manager access. We've revamped the customer search, so you're going to have a lot more advanced search options for customers, which we plan to do quite a bit more with in the future, and we're excited about. And one that we actually haven't released yet, but I'll just mention while I'm thinking about it, is for Backstock, we're adding a log of all the Backstock actions. So you'll be able to see if you need to look up the history of what happened with a weird bin move or something in the back, that happened a few months back. You'll be able to search and see all of the Backstock history. For the most part, Backstock's going to look really similar. We did add the history on individual bins as well. So if you click on a bin, you can see the details since it's been logged in and that as that bin. And the other, oh, sorry, Jackson, did you have something?
Well, one thing I was just going to add is that with the restructure of the interface, we've also, in addition to making to where you can do settings on your phone, all the functionality is available if you're on your phone in a way. We understand that so many managers and owners are really running things from their phone, either in the store or when they're away from the store, that if you want to go in and change the past reasons on buys, or if you want to go in and see the full details on Backstock, that all those views are still available on phone or your
and that's a great point. This has been around for a little while, but I think a lot of people have not known about it or maybe didn't know it was there. But you can get to this newer version on your phone or your laptop, and you'll be able to see, I'll kind of simulate what it will look like on your phone, able to see all the same stuff. If you're it gets a little slow when I'm sharing my screen, so sorry if we're laggy, but you'll be able to see all the same stuff if you log in. The newest version is team.reselai.com, but also if you just go to m.reselai.com, that should be the latest version as well. So some of you may have actually already been going to m.reselai.com and been seeing the newest stuff and maybe not even realized it. If you normally go to the ResaleAI website and click log in there, that is still taking you to the older version for now, just for continuity. But if you go to m.reselai.com, you can start using this newer version on your phone or on your laptop to get to some of those new settings and things like that. And then the other larger updates are around buys. So I wanted to go to the buy page and talk a little bit about that. A couple of the quick things you might notice right away is there's a search, which seems obvious, but might be overlooked. You can search for across any buys. So all the ones that are open, all the ones that have ever happened in the past, and more easily look up a specific buy by a transaction number or a phone number or a customer to help make it easier to find a buy that already happened. And we added back the closed buys. That was something that in the current beta version, we had moved that to a report, but it was hard to access, so we heard your feedback and we've added it back. And now we've made it even easier to find a particular date and go back and see all the buys that happened on that day and see the details of any of them. And we've added the counts of the buys, so you can more easily see, like, if it's a crazy busy day and you've got to scroll through to see all the buys, you can see exactly how many you have open and complete at any point. And we've got those buy settings Jackson kind of mentioned just a second ago. A big one that people have asked for a long time is the ability to manage the default checkboxes for your reasons why you're taking buys or passing on buys. So if you've got some weird ones in there that people have added over the years and they're misspelled or they're not what you want, you can go in and specify exactly what you want. Those default options. They can still add custom reasons anytime. And the other one is you're also going to be able to require an email address. So you will be able to turn that on and require an email address for all customers if you would like, as well as ID number. That's been there, but now you'll be able to require either or both. And then the other larger update on buys is QR codes. So if you're using the older version, the original version that Jackson showed at the beginning, one thing that was newer in the current version, the beta version, is the ability to scan a driver's license. And now you're going to be able to have the ability to scan a driver's license and the ability to let a customer scan from their phone to a QR code to go directly to the form. And this lets you have a lot of flexibility, a lot of different options. If it's really busy day and you have a lot of customers waiting to check in, they can scan the QR code to go directly to that form. So you don't have to text them. And that way they can all fill out their details while they're waiting. So as they get ready to the counter to drop their bags, they have already filled out the form. They're already ready to go. All your employee needs to do is enter in the bag description. So that also will cut down on the amount of text messages that you need to send and the amount of time that the employee spends with each person. So if you really like that personal touch, you really like your employee interacting with the customer all the time, you can still do that. If you want the customer to kind of fill out the form and the employee just comes over at the end to grab the bags, you can do that. And since you don't have to text them the form at the beginning, because they can just scan the QR code, that's going to reduce a lot of issues that we've seen with text message delivery. I know some of y'all have maybe had instances where cell service was bad, a text didn't go through because cell carriers have gotten more aggressive with blocking texts. So if you have seen any of that, this way you don't have to wait to text them the form. They can at least go ahead and get to the check-in directly from the QR code. And we've seen much fewer instances of text being blocked with the complete text messages than the initial check-in, because the check-in has a link and that can often be what catches it on the spam filters. So if you've had issues with text messages, we think this is going to help because you won't need to text them until the end when it's ready, and those usually don't get blocked. So that is a little bit about the buy page, and we can actually show you what the QR code is going to look like. Here's an example of like a little form we have for a Play-Doh store, and you can even use your phone to scan this and check it out right now if you want. That will show you what it looks like. And I saw Marla asking, does it require, you don't really need anything for the QR code. You don't need anything at all. It just goes straight to the form that they would have had on their phone. It doesn't require, I was thinking you might be asking about the license. It doesn't require you to use the ID requirement, but you can. So you can combine this with the driver's license. If you are somewhere where you need to keep an ID on file for all of your customers, you can still scan their ID. And kind of what that flow would look like is the customer would scan, fill out the info, and then when the employee is receiving their bags, they would scan their ID at the end and link up their ID to the buy right as they were finishing it.
Sarah, let me talk about that just a little bit while you kind of catch up on the chat there and then pick up some of these questions. So when we first started with Sign to Sell, there were a couple of base beliefs that we had that we wanted to put into play. And one was that the best device for the customer to be entering their information on is their own phone. It has their information already saved, their email address, all that kind of stuff. The other thing was that we didn't want the customers to fill out the parts of the form that didn't make sense for them to fill out. Coming from the old written buy forms, the customers were terrible at saying the number of containers in the description. They'd write like 4 t-shirts instead of like 1 laundry basket. And so we've always had this divide of the things the customers do and the things the employee does. With driver's licenses, we took away, for the most part, I think you can opt to put it on there, but the customer entering their driver's license information. It's slow. They don't know their number by heart. Scanning it is a ton faster. So if you use the QR code, we made it to where it's easy to have the customer scan the QR code. Say 5 people are coming in with buys all at the same time. They can all scan the QR code and start filling it out. As they come to check in, then you can scan the license and attach it to each one of those customers as they're going. And so we tried to take the original sort of buy paper that we've all used since, for 20 years and make it collaborative, where we're filling out some things, they're filling out some other things that can happen at the same time. You can still do it all employee side if you want to.
Yeah, and that's the nice part, is having that flexibility where you can do it really any of the ways. I could type in your phone number and send you the text message. I could type it all in on my end. If I had someone who was really struggling and I needed to do it for them, I could have them scan the QR code, and after they submit, I just add the buy details and finish. I could scan a license. So it's kind of going to work best for depending on your own store's flow, and maybe even depending on the day. On really busy days, the QR code is going to be really helpful. If it's a slower day and you don't really need them to, scan the code, you can have that more personal touch talking to the customer as you send them the text. You have the flexibility to do it anyways. And yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention too was if you guys scan this code, you can see what it looks like, but we've revamped the customer form that they see on their phone when they get the, like whether you text them the link or they scan the QR code, it goes to the same place. And it looks like this. So it's a little bit of an easier form to fill out. And we can just do a test one with myself. Let me see, make sure I got the text message. I turned my notifications off for this. So
Well, while she's filling that out, I'll grab a couple of these questions.
yeah.
Lisa, the turn off the time the customer will see. We took away the customer selecting the time, but we do want to show them when we're saying it's going to be done. It's the expectation that they can count on. Our feedback so far is the customers like it. It does mean that we want to make sure we're updating it on the employee side as we're checking them in. But then that also lets us prioritize the buys based on when the customer is expecting it to be done. So if we know it's going to take an hour, we tell them an hour. But if they say, I'll be back this evening, and you want to allow them to do that, just change the time, and we're all under the same expectation that it'll be done at 5. And we'll reprioritize our buy process to fit. Sarah?
Yeah, and one thing that's nice here is we'd gotten a lot of complaints that there was confusion on the old form where it would say it was spinning until it was fully checked in, and the customer wouldn't really know if they had been checked in or not. And so we changed the form so where it'll actually just say that the information was sent, and it tells them to speak to an employee to complete the check-in process and then drop off their items. And then it's more clear when they're in the queue, sorting complete, and they can come back to this page anytime to see the status. And one thing too that I wanted to mention was that Jackson talked about how the goal has been to make the form a little more collaborative, where it doesn't really matter what order you start or who does what at what time. We just need all the information. We need the customer's details. We want their signature. We need the bag details. The employee needs to do some of it. The customer can do some of it. And then we are in the process of rolling out a new change to the buy flow, check-in flow for the employee that's going to make that a little bit easier. And here's an example of what that looks like for our test store here, where it doesn't look super pretty right now because I'm not really on a regular point of sale. This is a test store. It's not a real store. But the goal is that instead of having to type in the customer's phone number and search for them and find their DRS record before you can get to the rest of the information, that all the information is just on the same screen. So I can type in a phone number if I start that way. And once I do that, I need to sign in as me really quick, which we're going to talk about that in a sec. But as soon as I put in my phone number, it goes ahead and fills everything out. It, puts in my information. It pulls in my DRS customer record if I have one. It sends the text message. It does everything. So now what I'm waiting on is the customer's ID and the bag details. And the customer can either fill it out on their phone or the QR code or the driver's license scan. Doesn't really matter how I get the ID or when I do it. And the same with the bag details. I can go ahead and start putting in, the bag details at any point. And the goal of this form,
I think maybe they can't see your screen. I can see it, but we're seeing some people can't see the screen.
Okay, how strange. Let me try closing the screen share and sharing again. Sorry guys. Thanks for telling me that, Jackson.
And Kaylee, so if they
are still sharing?
I am, but I have been the whole time, but I can stop it.
Oh, okay. All right. How is that? Can you all see now?
I think part of it is the scale is a little blurry maybe, but
okay.
Yeah, it looks like they can see it.
Looks like I can see it now. Okay. The goal is that it doesn't have 2 steps. You don't have to do one part and then the rest. I can see everything at the same time, and I can fill out in any order. If I want to, scan the ID first, I can scan from here. If the customer has already filled out their information, I can pull it up and see and do what I need to at any point. And it's a little tricky to demonstrate this without a scanner at a real point of sale. Like I said, this is just a test store. We're going to be having additional emails coming out about this with some little videos showing you how it works in action. But I can see under pending, it looks like some of you guys have filled out the form. So I don't want to open this up and display anybody's information, but I could show my pending buy. So if you guys were all in line to check out or to check in, and I'm the employee, you're all standing in the queue, I can walk up to the person that walks up to me and say, hey, thanks for coming in. What was your name? And they tell me, Sarah. I find them from the pending buy. I can see all the stuff is filled out here. All I need to do is put in the container description and scan their ID if I want to. I have the requirement turned on for this store. You don't have to require it, but you can put it in if you want to. That's the nice thing, is that like the ID will always be there if you want it. You can require it or not. You can scan or not. So I think this will give you a lot of flexibility. And then, as we talked about before, this is the expected quoted time. This is our algorithm calculating, looking at the number of buys in the queue and how quickly we've been working today, and saying, okay, based on the number of buys that we need to do and how many sorters we've seen, we think this buy will be ready around this time. And I can change it before I finalize the buy. So this way I can fit someone ahead if they just have one thing, or I can put someone for later. If it's a really busy day at my store and you say you're coming back at 7 after you get off work, I'm going to put that buy for 6:45, and we are going to fit other people in right now who are standing around waiting so they can have a better experience and not wait for me to sort your stuff first when you're not going to be here for 5 hours. So you don't have to do that, but I think it can be really helpful for managing expectations on busy days. And you can edit that after the fact if you need to. So this is what the newer check-in experience is going to look like. Like I said, I think that it's going to have the best of both worlds. Like, you can scan, you can use the QR code, you can do it in any way.
So the question from or comment from Kaylee here, that noticing the timer doesn't start when it's dropped off, only when you click sorting. And so this is actually intentional. If there are a whole bunch of buys stacked up and we're just on a long wait, then it's going to have an average time and a total time that like they can't really control. What they can control, strongly, is how fast it takes them to sort. As we looked through like how long it takes to do buys, we found that the number of containers really kind of doesn't matter. It mostly matters how many takes you have, because that takes so much longer than it does to pass on items, because you have to enter it and there's just more to it. And so the overall like time on the buy, like if we set the customer expectation, here's when we'll be done, and they can see that, and then we live up to it, then that's a great customer experience. They're sorted on the open screen in 15-minute increments based on that time, and they start turning red when we get close to it. They turn yellow and then red when we get close to it. So the drivers and the motivators on managing the pace is around, how long did it take to sort, and then what's, is it close to, are we overdue? Are we getting close to overdue?
Yes, I wanted to jump in and mention a couple of things too. The nice thing about the flexibility to reprioritize buys to fit someone ahead or push someone later if you want to, is that if I choose to do this one later because they're coming back later, or maybe tomorrow, you can go all the way to tomorrow if you want to. I've had people ask before, like, if someone drops off right before we close, we don't have time to sort it, can I put it for tomorrow? Yes, you can even choose a specific time. Excuse me. The nice thing about that is it's not going to turn red and show up like it's late if it's been sitting there for a while, because I intentionally set it for a later time. So like this buy right here, I put for 2:15. I was checking this in as a test buy this morning. I've got plenty of time to do that one. It's like only 1:30. I just did that so it would still be there when we're on this webinar. But if we were getting close to this time, it's going to turn yellow and then red. So our team is going to see yellow and red if we're not going to meet the customer expectation. But it's not going to turn red if it's been sitting there and I intentionally put it at the end of the queue to do later. But we can still see all the details. So if I click start sorting, yeah, the timer here is showing me how long it's been in process, so I can see how long it's been taking my buyer to actually work on and finish the buy. But if I click on the buy to view its details, sorry guys, I've been having the worst allergies. I need to take a drink of water. But if I click on this buy here, which I'm not sure why it's not opening, we'll just go over to this one and look at it. If I click on any buy, you're going to see the timeline, and you'll be able to see exactly who checked it in and when it's estimated. If we go to one that's already complete, I can see who checked it in and when. Do we have a digital signature on file? Who started sorting it and when? When was it completed? So you'll be able to see all of those details. And to some of y'all's point, we do plan to add in the future some KPIs back onto this page. We haven't finalized what that's going to look like or what they're going to be, but we're planning on adding more KPIs to this daybook page, where you see some here, a little bit more details there about your buys, and then having some of that visible on the buy page so that you can kind of see a view of both. Because I do understand that like they're different metrics, but they're both helpful. Knowing how long on average it's taking your employees to complete each buy and how long on average the customers have had to wait today, like both can be a good measure, even though they're a little different. So that's something that will be coming soon later on.
I'll also add, we want to be, one of our primary drivers here at ResaleAI is we want to make the right thing to do the easiest thing to do. And so, sorting them based on when the customer is going to be back, doing them first come, first serve generally, is important. Making it, having it done when we told the customer to be done is important. I'm also really, really hesitant on what numbers we make red and green, because it does change behavior so much. And so we're like intentionally slow on using metrics around buy speed, because it doesn't necessarily create the right behaviors. The right thing to do is to have a good buyer go through that big buy that's going to take forever. But when we start like looking at how long it takes buyers on average and things like that, then there's a real disincentive to pick up the big buy. And they want to like just rush through the small buys, or they may not spend enough time going through it, when really I want to make sure that we're buying the stuff we should buy and passing on the stuff we should pass on. And if that takes the time it takes, like that's time's not the most important driver there. But on the closed buys page, because we do know you want to see like some systemic sort of how are we doing overall. And on the closed buys screen, it does show, the processing time on that screen. So you can, as you're looking at a bunch of buys at once, you can kind of see what was going on. And, it is a legitimate question of, were they just slacking off today? And so we do want to like be able to somewhat answer that without making a punitive metric.
One other thing too that I realized is actually one of the biggest updates that's gonna be something y'all love, but I totally forgot to mention is somebody asked it. It's going to be a lot easier now to update the phone number if it changes, or to update their DRS customer record if something is different. This newer form that I'm showing here, this is not the best example because this is a test store without any real buys of note, so I don't have a DRS customer record here, but you can see this is telling me it's going to have a new customer record for this person. If I already had existing customer records and then I edit something on this form, it's going to show you right here, this is what's currently in DRS and here's what's going to change. And it's going to let you know, hey, when you check in this buy, you're going to change the DRS customer record too. And as long as you're okay with that, then it'll be evident to you, so you don't do it by accident. You can edit the name, the phone number much more easily. And when you change the phone number, I believe it also sends the text message again. So that way, automatically, like you don't need to do anything. So it's going to make it much easier. It's been a recurring thing people have asked about. If there wasn't an awesome way of managing multiple customer records or changing phone numbers before, and that's going to be a lot easier now, and keep things in sync. So that's something we're excited about as well.
Correct.
And so that's kind of a highlight of really fast. We're trying to move quick to be able to cover everything, but that's kind of a highlight view of a lot of the newer features. There is one more feature that Jackson's mainly going to talk about, but the other one that you may have noticed when I was doing something earlier here, the way I'm logging here is there's not going to be a blue lock screen anymore. That is gone. We've changed the employee PIN entry. We've redone how that is. So if you're someone who was using the older version and you didn't like that blue lock screen, we heard your feedback, and we've adapted. So I'll let Jackson take over and demonstrate that and talk.
I'm going to let you drive actually, because you have the. I'm not logged in that way.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm logged in. So if let me log out so that I can do it while you're talking.
I will. Jackie has a quick question about the QR code that I see there. When you go into buy settings and set up your QR code, it'll email you a PDF similar to the way we do backstock labels that has the QR code for your store on there. The QR code's unique per store, so when someone scans it, it will go directly to your store's sign in. Those sign-in pages are also branded, but with the brand. So it'll be a Once Upon look, or it'll be a Play It Again Sports, or a Plato's Closet, or whatever. So when they get there, it'll look like your store and not be branded Sign to Sell, which was something that was also a little confusing. So in the first version of ResaleAI, it was all honor system. You go check off a task and you say who you were, but anybody could also create a note from the owner. And that was not misused often, but it was misused a few times. And we wanted to go away from that and have a better idea of who's doing what, so we can keep track of, things like what happened on rack maintenance, and who moved that backstock bin. If you were logged in under your own account and you move a backstock bin, we keep track of it. But if it was a shared store account, we just know that somebody moved it. So with beta, we rolled out the PIN security, where everybody had a PIN that they could enter in as they took an action. And I'll be honest, we modeled that after restaurant point of sale systems I've worked with in the past. One of them was Aloha. It's got like a little floating logo that goes across the screen. And then when you go up and touch it, you enter your PIN and you're in. And we kind of did that same thing with this like screen that blocked everything. Part of the problem there was that it's also useful to just see ResaleAI when you're not interacting with it, to know what your current sales are, how many buys are in the queue, are we getting behind on buys, are they red, that kind of thing. And by having the lock screen, you couldn't see that, and it was a blocker. And so what we've done now is that it still has a PIN and it still has a timeout after a minute or whatever, and I think that's configurable. But when it goes locked, you'll see the lock icon up in the top right, and it's now in read-only mode. And so you're able to still go around the app. You're still able to go over to buys and see how many are in the queue and see the current sales and all that. But if you go to add a note or complete a task or check in a buy, at that point, it's going to ask you for your PIN. That's also integrated in if you're using When I Work or Homebase. Homebase we're in the final stages of testing now. When we get into the talk about how to install this, like it'll be ready for you next week. But if you're using Homebase or When I Work, when they enter that PIN, it's going to also help them clock in, which keeps us from having to go and do a bunch of changing time entries like, oh, I forgot to clock in. Well, then what in the hell have you done for the past hour? Because you obviously haven't completed any tasks or checked in any buys or anything. So we do still believe that it's important to have employee PIN security, but we do understand we made it too much of a blocker, too obtrusive. And exactly. I think this is a much better solution at the end of the day.
I was going to say, I signed into the same account. I'm logged into like 4 different accounts right now, but this one these are the same view. So this was what it was like before with this blue lock screen. And the pins were really nice because they did add that security, but if you were at the point of sale, you couldn't just glance over and kind of see how sales were doing. You had to sign in first. And some people would complain or comment that, our team doesn't check sales as often because they have to think to go put in their PIN. And so now this is the exact same account that I'm logged into, but I'm on the newest version and I don't have that blue lock screen. I can still see everything, but as I go to do something, it's just going to ask me who I am really quick. And I can quickly put in my PIN code, and now I'm logged in as me. I see my icon over here, and I can continue to do whatever I need to do. So this is going to feel a lot more like that older original version. If you're still on that version, I think it's going to feel a lot more intuitive and convenient for you because it's essentially the same. You just have to type in a quick PIN as you're working so that there's a little extra security. I can't go check in a buy and pretend I'm Jackson.
Right.
And the other night,
go ahead and check off another task. Like you don't have
yeah,
to.
I was gonna say the other nice thing we're on the same track here is I can keep working. So in the older version, you had to pick your name every single time, which would get really annoying. I can go through and just knock out all these tasks, continue checking in buys, manage backstock bins, and I don't have to keep putting in my PIN because I'm already logged in. It's going to remember me. It's going to keep me logged in for a little while, and then like Jackson said, after I think it's about a minute by default, but you can change it. It will lock the screen automatically. So if I walk away, it'll only stay logged in as me for a minute or something, 30 seconds to a minute before it locks. So there's still that security there. I can also click this lock icon to lock it again, so that as I'm walking away, no one can do anything like as me. So we think it's going to be a much better experience.
Also, this allows us to have things like buy settings on the POS because only managers have access to certain tasks, right? Only managers can create a new employee or can change the text messages. Now we'll know, everybody who's a manager, when you enter your PIN, you have access to those things. Managers are able to edit a task or a note that was already created or undo something that was done. So being able to also give more capability, more power to you in the store at the same time as part of that.
Definitely. And like Jackson said, we've really been intentional about designing this newest version in a way that's going to be consistent across your phone, your laptop, the point of sale. It's going to look and feel similar across any version and provide a better support experience. We are a super small team. There's only a handful of us. If you've dealt with anybody on support, it's probably been myself, Connor, like just very few people that you interact with, but we like to think that we can keep up doing a good job supporting you guys, and we're making changes in this newer version that are going to let us provide even better support. We're actually changing our platform that we use internally for our help center, for our chat and tickets, to one that's going to provide a lot more like automations and better ways to keep us helping you, and have more just consistent, fast, reliable support, and better help articles, better videos, training materials to equip your stores. And another thing too, Jackson, if you want to talk just briefly about behind the scenes, some of the backend architecture that they don't see.
Yeah. So, we have new functionality that allows us to have features that only some people see, and so we can test things. So, like right now, we're testing, a new buy flow in our internal stuff, and then it'll go to our stores. When we deploy a change, it goes to all the applications at the same time. So it used to be that we had to keep Sign to Sell and Camray and the app like all kind of synced up, and couldn't release something until it was ready everywhere. Now, just by default, it's ready everywhere. And we now are able to have it to where our stores only use every release before it goes anywhere else. So it's always being tested in real time in our stores first for a couple of days before we ever push that bug fix or whatever out to the rest of the people. And so, we're really excited about just the speed with which our development has been able to pick up. It feels like a long time since we've been able to make releases every day. If you click the about screen in this, it'll tell you a version number. And the way these version numbers work is that it's the year, the month, and then the number of release of the month. And so I think this is release 23.3.10. Okay, so this one's 23.3.7. Alpha, which we were just testing earlier, is 23.3.10. We've done 10 releases so far in March. And so when we first started this, one of the goals of ResaleAI was to make it better every day, so your stores would run better every day. And then it took us a while to get back to that. But I feel like with this release, we're back to being able to make things better every day, and we're pretty excited about it. In addition to changing the support platform, we're also adding support resources. So there's going to be more people that are available to chat, so we can have a little bit more standard hours. Our hope is to make sure that we always have someone there when you open the store that's available on chat. I know that chat's been a little less, the hours have been shorter than it used to be. It used to be like, hey, 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, sure, I'll answer it. But, it just wasn't sustainable with such a small team after a while. But we're adding more chat resources. So
definitely. I was just going to say, like, the kind of the reason we've done a lot of these changes are because Jackson alluded at the beginning, when we built the original version, I wasn't around, I was a customer at the time, but when Jackson was first building this stuff for his stores, it was kind of like separately building each feature and kind of cramming them together, and wasn't a clear vision of what the whole program would look like. And so it was getting very fractured and hard to maintain, and it was hard for our team to be able to fix bugs, develop new features, and support 2 different platforms and things like that. And so moving to this more central version that we're demonstrating today and getting everyone on that is going to help us to be able to grow and scale, release new features to you guys a lot more quickly going forward, so that as we get feature requests or people notice a bug, we can respond and fix them and add new stuff a lot more quickly going forward for you guys, and have a faster, better performance at the point of sale, is more reliable. Just, we've pretty much built everything brand new on the back end, in a much more consistent way that lets us build on top of that much more quickly. And I saw, Wendy, you were asking about using the older version. One question we've gotten from people in the past is, can I keep using that? You totally can for now. We're gonna let y'all use that. But it's not going to be the best experience. It's not going to be great. It's going to continue to get less and less of our internal resources to be able to fix bugs in that version or support that version, because the newer version it's easier and better for us to maintain. So you can keep using the older version, but we really think you're going to love the newer features that are available and the better support that's going to be available and things like that in the newer version. And we think now is a great time to switch because we want to help you guys transition over before back to school season, before things get really busy, so that you have time to learn, train your team. We're definitely going to be creating more and more materials just for people coming from that older version. We have a little help article now that kind of walks through specifically what's new coming from that version to this one. But we'll probably do another webinar soon for people that are just coming from that version, so that we can talk through it a little bit more. And then, ultimately we'll probably offer like a calendar where you can book calls with our team and we can meet one-on-one and talk through like what needs to happen for the transition.
So yeah, and to add on to that, after this webinar is over, you'll receive an email with a link that takes you to how you can get started with this now. If you're someone who likes to try the newest stuff and who has a team that's okay with change and is feeling tech savvy, do it now, or do it Monday. Don't do it on a Friday. Don't do it on the weekend, but do it Monday to Thursday. If that's not you, if you want to make sure that like more people have had a chance to test it out and to move over, and that you're not ready to go just yet, that's fine. We agree with you, and we want you to be thinking about getting this done sometime this spring or summer, so that it's ready before the busy time during back to school. As more people are migrating over, our chat responses, our help desk is all going to be geared towards this, and so it's not that we want to like take the old version away as much, that we're just not going to be able to support it the same. And so that's why we're sort of bringing this up now and saying, hey, you're ready to go if you want to go, and if not, just think about when it's going to be a good time, when the manager's not taking a vacation, and the actual process of setting it up realistically is going to take about an hour one morning. It's about 5 to 10 minutes to set it up on each POS, and then kind of go through. If you haven't used pins at all, then set some pins and ask us any questions that you have. If you're already using beta now, it's just updating the point of sale. And I'll call this out specifically, but Kira asked, is there a way to lock it so that they can't go back and forth? Well, once you make this upgraded team, you install a new version of the point of sale, it stops asking which version they want to use, and there is no way to go back. This is a one-way transition. There's no more beta. Like beta, we're out of beta. Like we've made it. This is it. But once you make this jump, then you're going to want to make the jump all the way and install it on every POS, and then that's it.
Yes, and if you're kind of like wanting to check it out a little bit before you install the point of sales, go to m.resaleai.com or team.resaleai.com in a browser or on your laptop, phone, check it out, play around with it, get familiar with it, and then whenever you're ready, you can install the point of sales. Like Jackson said, it's going to be available now. We're opening it up to anyone who wants to check it out. We are definitely looking for feedback. It's really been great to hear some really good feedback from our first couple rounds of test stores over the last couple of months. You will get an email after this that will have, I believe if you're an attendee, it's going to include a link directly to the install page that gives you information about what's new and how to install. If you didn't attend and you're watching it back later, just email support@resaleai.com. It gives you instead a link to rewatch it. So just email us and we'll send you the same info. And then, like Jackson said, when you're ready, it's there. Try it out. You're going to be hearing more and more from us about this in the coming weeks as we finish refining some of the last bits. We're going to send out additional emails kind of explaining about some of the newer features and opening it up wider and wider and pushing people to move over as you go. But you're welcome to try it out now. We're really excited to get additional feedback.
Sammy asked if you could put it on just one POS and see how it works. Play with it on your laptop. Once you move it over to the point of sale, things are going to get weird, particularly around buys if you don't move them all. And the reason is that all the auto updating stuff where like if it changes the status on one place, it changes on the other one, those systems are different between the old one and the new one. And so anything that's made on one, that change isn't going to show up. You could technically do it. You'll have to refresh over and over again. So it wouldn't be like the best working environment. Doing it for a day, okay-ish. And then, so that's why you generally want to move them all at once. Dustin, it should respond to your device settings, but for bigger text, because I also have terrible eyes. If you want to talk more about that, I'm happy to.
Tammy mentioned you're trying it on your laptop and it won't let you. If anyone sees anything kind of wonky, shoot an email to support@ResaleAI.com. There actually is one thing that you might encounter if you're logging in with an email, which is that it works a little bit differently. The way that your email user is connected to your employee record that has the PIN. There might be a few of you out there that, depending on when you signed up or how, that your employee record with the PIN is not linked to your email address, and it might have a little bit of a weird experience, but we can fix that for you in a few seconds. So if you see anything strange, just shoot us an email. But yeah, I think that's most of it. We would like to open up if anyone has more questions or feedback before we go. I know we've already run over a little bit the time we intended, so I don't want to keep everybody. But we can hang out and answer a few more questions for a few more minutes. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining, you guys. And look out for that email. Once this webinar is ended and we close it, you should get it's a follow-up from the webinar platform thanking you for joining, and it will have a link to that version that we talked about.
Yeah, and we'll stick around and answer questions. It seems like there's still a fair amount in the chat. So, but generally this is over. There's not really a way to end it right now, so everybody's gonna get the recording. It's extra long, but that's okay.
David, I noticed you said that this team set is running a little slow. I don't know if you've tried it on your own device and it's running slow, or if you're noticing it's slow for us. For me, it is very slow when I share my screen. So on your own device. Okay, cool. Yeah, let us know what area you were in. I know that the report page was loading a little slow, which we are releasing a fix for that really soon. So definitely shoot us an email.
And so we probably have more people on. Backstock. Yeah, loading an individual backstock bin is slow as shit at the moment, and we know why, and we'll fix that. The current active employees, I see not active employees on the user page. That's interesting. That could be something we haven't noticed before. It's possible that it shows inactive users. It's also possible that the users are still active.
You can use When I Work too. I know that if you use that integration and you're going to the team page to look at your employee list, if you delete an employee in When I Work, when you add them in When I Work, it adds them in ResaleAI. It doesn't do the same when you delete them. It's just a little harder to keep track. We don't get a notification when someone's deleted. So if you've deleted people in When I Work and you've never gone and deleted them in ResaleAI, you might need to just go through and delete some employees there.
Tina asked if there's a way to show the different stores. It should show the stores in the drop down in the top right that you'd see on your mobile device or on a laptop. If you're not seeing if the store doesn't seem obvious, which store you're in right now, let us know and we'll work on that. I do think it could be a little cleaner on mobile still. P8 for all 5 stores. That is not quite. I think that's your employee doesn't have a user record. Are you having to enter your PIN as you see that, Tina?
Check that out too. That one might be a good one. If you shoot us an email at support@resaleai.com, we can pull up your account and check it out. Jacob, you mentioned when an employee marks off a task, could you make it to where it's PIN only and they don't select their name? It gets a little tricky because people can have the same PIN, or it's like a way you could discover somebody's PIN. Like I could just type in some numbers and it'd pop up that I completed it as somebody else, and then I'd know that person's PIN. So it's a little tricky, but there will be some improvements around the sorting. That's something we're also working on now, where it's going to sort by the people that have taken action today most recently and people who are scheduled, so it should be easier to kind of see the right people at the top. And then if I am logged in and I just got logged out, it actually will just prompt me for my PIN again. If I was just using it and I'm only just now got logged out, so like right after I'm signed out, I can just it'll assume it's me, and I can change it if I need to. I think I should be able to demo that if I just put in my PIN real quick.
And you can also come up and click the lock and log in with the PIN that way, and then everything you do, it doesn't ask the PIN. It only asks the PIN that first time you're taking actions, and it tries to remember.
I was gonna say, I realized if I lock it intentionally, it actually doesn't remember you, so I'd have to sit and wait for it to time out, and then it would remember me. But it should remember you if it's just recently been locked out.
Yeah, I do think four numbers is a little bit easy to brute force, so we can't just let it be just enter the PIN like an employee code, because we really don't want people sharing them. which I think is what happens sometimes.
Yeah, another thing too, I don't want to keep going and going and going, but one other thing that I have gotten some questions about or feedback about from some test stores is that one reason they didn't love the pins in the beta version was because they have a separate team of a sorter versus an enterer, and they wanted the enterer to be able to mark the sorter's name, and so they didn't like having to put in a pin because they wanted to be able to mark it off as someone else. We're going to be doing more to support that flow in a better way in the future. So you're going to see some updates coming soon that will make that a little bit easier if you use that process. But you can change who is sorting the buy or who just did an action, like right after you take an action. So if I check off this task, I should be able to click for like a few seconds to, that's not the one I just did, but I should be able to click for a few seconds to edit it. Or if you're a manager, you'll be able to edit it. And then that way you can change it really quickly right afterward. Or if this buy is being sorted, I can click on the buy and change who sorted it. The nice thing is that we still have the history of who like did that change. So it doesn't look like, I don't know, it's a little less sneaky. Like I can see that Sarah initially put in her pin and then changed it to be Jackson. So I can't just pretend to be Jackson, because we have had a few instances where someone reached out with suspected fraud where an employee was cashing out a buy or marking it complete or sorting or checking in under someone else's name. So this kind of prevents that, because even if they change it, we'll still see the original person that was there. But you can click and change it right after.
Yeah, I feel like there's other things, and there's manager only notes, manager only tasks. There's you can see if a text message just fails, it'll say it fails in the status under the text, kind of like on your phone. There's a lot more, but the main thing is that it should be more consistent. The lock screen should be simpler. And it's
coming from the much older version, you can assign employees, you can have due dates, due times, custom dates on notes. So there are quite a few other things that, if you're coming from that older version, quite a few other things that have been around for a while that are new to you. So we think you're really, really going to like it.
Well, thank you, everyone. You'll get an email shortly on how to proceed and move forward. We'll be doing these again as it develops, and also probably do some very specific ones, doing a deep dive into things like backstock and the daybook and buys to make sure that we understand the full functionality that's available in the newer version. So thank you all.